You are standing in front of a mirror, staring at your reflection under the harsh, flickering fluorescent bathroom light. Nothing but glass and toothpaste between you and your own face. You lean in close. You are picking apart your flaws. You are looking at the shape of your nose, the color of your eyes, the way your hair falls. You are wondering what makes you special. You think the exact same thing every single modern person thinks when they look in the mirror on a boring Tuesday morning. I am totally unique. And yet, you wake up, you go to work, you eat, you sleep, and you bleed exactly like 8 billion other people. Statistically, you are entirely standard. But, looking right back at you, hiding right there inside your standard reflection is a walking, breathing graveyard of extinct human species, every single time. Why? The short answer is genetics. The long answer is way more interesting, because it's never just one thing. There are several layered evolutionary explanations, each more fascinating than the last, that combine to create the literal mathematical anomaly of you. Let's go. Let's build the absolute rarest human being mathematically possible. We are not looking at random cosmetic quirks. We are not talking about being double-jointed, or having a weirdly shaped toe, or being able to roll your tongue. We are looking at deep, ancient, hardcore survival hardware. We are looking at the kind of biological machinery that kept your ancestors alive when absolutely everything else on Earth was actively trying to kill them. To build this ultimate survivor, we have to travel back. Way back. 300,000 years into the deep past. Imagine you are asleep in a dark, freezing cave deep in the Altai Mountains. The air outside is howling, and the air inside the cave is incredibly thin. It is so brutally cold and so intensely oxygen-starved that it feels like you are trying to breathe through a wet straw. Most modern humans, if dropped into this exact environment, would simply pass out. Your modern body would immediately panic. Your brain would detect the lack of oxygen, and it would start frantically overproducing red blood cells to catch whatever microscopic bits of oxygen it could find in the freezing air. Your blood would physically thicken into a sludge. Your heart would strain against the immense pressure of pumping that sludge through your veins, and eventually, without even waking up, you would quietly die in the dark. But not this ancient group. They are Denisovans, and they survive perfectly, comfortably, because of a microscopic typo in their DNA. It's called the EPAS1 gene. In 2014, evolutionary biologist Rasmus Nielsen and his team published a groundbreaking study that completely shocked the scientific community. They were looking at modern Tibetan populations living at extreme, punishing altitudes in the Himalayas. For a long time, scientists assumed these populations just slowly adapted to the thin air over millions of years of natural selection. But that wasn't true. Nielsen's team discovered that the Tibetans inherited a highly specific, ancient genetic mutation directly from Denisovan ancestors who interbred with Homo sapiens tens of thousands of years ago before vanishing from the Earth. This gene mutation acts like a biological regulator. It actively stops the body from overproducing red blood cells in high altitudes. It prevents the blood from thickening. It prevents strokes. It prevents massive heart attacks. It allows a human being to run, hunt, and thrive in an environment that should theoretically be an absolute death zone. If we are building the absolute rarest human on Earth, they need the Denisovan breath. Read that again. The ability to breathe effortlessly at the top of the world isn't just a cool adaptation. It is a ghost trait inherited from a phantom species. Now let's talk about the night. You're sitting by a crackling campfire on the prehistoric savanna. The darkness around you is absolute. There is no light pollution. There are no walls. There is only the fire, and whatever is waiting out there in the grass. The rest of your tribe is asleep in the dirt. They are entirely unconscious. They need 8 straight hours of rest to function properly. For a third of their entire lives, they are paralyzed, hallucinating in their dreams, and completely vulnerable to predators that can hear a heartbeat from across a clearing. But you don't sleep. You are wide awake. You are alert. You are scanning the tall grass for the glowing eyes of big cats. You only need 4 hours of sleep. For decades, modern medical science told us that every single human being absolutely requires 7 to 9 hours of sleep to survive. It was an unbreakable biological rule. Without it, your cognitive functions degrade, your immune system crashes, and your reaction times slow down to a crawl. You literally start to die. But in 2009, a researcher named Ying-Wei Fu at the University of California, San Francisco discovered something impossible: the DHC2 gene mutation. People with this extraordinarily rare genetic variant are true short sleepers. They sleep exactly 4 to 6 hours a night, naturally, without setting an alarm, and they wake up completely refreshed. They don't experience any cognitive decline. They don't need extra coffee. They don't suffer a massive mid-afternoon crash. They simply process the neurological repair of sleep radically more efficiently than the rest of us. In the modern world, these people become CEOs, politicians, and those insufferable productivity gurus who tweet about their morning routine at 4 in the morning, and they probably heard a podcast and ran an ultramarathon before you even opened your eyes. But in the ancient world, this wasn't a life hack. This was the ultimate survival mechanism. A prehistoric tribe desperately needed someone to watch the fire when everyone else was completely vulnerable. A tribe needed a sleepless watcher, a human alarm system who never felt fatigued. Our rarest human has the DE2 mutation. They don't sleep like we do, and they never tire. Here's something else that almost never comes up when we talk about ancient human survival: your bones. Imagine a prehistoric hunter sprinting through the dense, tangled underbrush, chasing a wounded animal. They trip over a thick, hidden root, fly through the air, and slam shoulder first into solid, unyielding rock. In the Paleolithic era, a broken bone wasn't just a painful inconvenience. It was usually a violent death sentence. You couldn't hunt. You couldn't gather food. You couldn't defend yourself against rival tribes. You became an active liability, slowing your own tribe down, while predators circled the perimeter of your camp, waiting for someone to fall behind. But what if your skeleton was practically made of concrete? In 2002, researchers at Yale University were studying a family in Connecticut who seemed to possess a bizarre, real-life superpower. None of them had ever broken a single bone. Not once. Not in severe car crashes. Not in massive, terrifying falls. Not in high-impact contact sports. Their medical records were entirely devoid of fractures. When the Yale scientists looked closer at their DNA, they found a massive mutation in a gene called LRP5. This specific genetic mutation sends a continuous, unstoppable signal to the body to build bones that are astronomically dense. Their skeletons are heavy, incredibly thick, and virtually unbendable. The density of their bone tissue is so profoundly high that it actually breaks surgical steel drills during routine medical procedures. Having unbreakable bones isn't a metaphor. It is literal human armor hiding right under the skin. If our mathematically rare human steps into the wild, they carry the LRP5 mutation. They can take a massive hit from a cave bear, get thrown against a cavern wall, and simply stand back up and walk away. They are unbreakable. There is also the matter of what you can actually see. You are walking through a dense, primeval forest. The canopy above you blocks out most of the sun. To a normal human, the forest around you is just a massive, repeating wall of identical green leaves. Everything blends together into a flat, monotonous blur of shadows and green. But hidden somewhere in that green wall is a highly venomous snake, perfectly camouflaged against a vine. Or a deeply toxic, slightly off-color berry hanging just out of reach. Or the incredibly subtle, violently disrupted track of a wounded deer pressed into the mud. Most of us have exactly 3 types of cone cells inside our eyes. Because of this, we can see about 1 million distinct colors, but a tiny, mathematically microscopic fraction of the population sees some 100 million colors. It is a stunningly rare condition called tetrachromacy. In the 2010s, a vision researcher named Dr. Jay Neitz confirmed the true biological existence of human tetrachromats. Because of a highly specific genetic mutation located directly on the X chromosome, these unique individuals possess a 4th type of cone cell inside their retinas. They look at a standard green leaf and see complex, vibrant, explosive shades of yellow, purple, and red that quite literally do not exist to the rest of humanity. They live their entire lives in a completely different visual dimension. In modern times, they might become incredible painters or interior designers, or art critics. But in ancient times, they were the absolute ultimate foragers. They were the strict difference between a tribe eating a highly nutritious meal and a tribe violently wiping itself out on a toxic root system. They could spot the microscopic color variations of a predator hiding deep in the brush from 50 yards away. They could see the world exactly as it was. Our rarest human has the eyes of a tetrachromat. They see the invisible world. Now let's look deeper, past the dense bones, past the colorful eyes. Let's look down into the blood itself. If you get injured in the deep past, you bleed. Blood types didn't just happen by accident. They aren't random cosmetic labels. They evolved over millions of years as a deeply complex defense mechanism against ancient, horrific diseases. Malaria, cholera, the bubonic plague. Your specific blood type is a biological map of the specific ancient diseases your ancestors managed to survive. But in 1961, doctors discovered an Aboriginal Australian woman with blood that absolutely defied all known medical science. Rh null. It is often called golden blood by the international medical community. Fewer than 50 people on the entire planet are actively known to have it, out of 8 billion living humans. It completely lacks all 61 known antigens in the Rh system. Because it has absolutely zero antigens for a foreign body to reject, it is the purest, most highly prized universal donor blood in existence. It can be given to almost anyone with a dangerously rare blood type to save their life. It is incredibly valuable. But for the actual person who has it, it is a terrifying, lifelong tightrope walk over a bottomless drop. If an Rh null person ever gets severely injured and desperately needs a blood transfusion themselves, they can only accept golden blood. If they get a single microscopic drop of absolutely anything else, their immune system will violently attack the foreign blood cells. Their organs will shut down, and they will die. Our rarest human bleeds gold. It is the ultimate genetic paradox, an incredible gift that is simultaneously a deadly curse. Now let's be honest. This video would be deeply irresponsible if it wasn't completely transparent about how probability and genetics actually work. You cannot simply take these 5 extreme mutations and multiply the odds together on a calculator to find this person. Human genetics simply does not work like a slot machine. It is geographically locked. The Denisovan EPES1 gene is heavily, almost exclusively concentrated in the high Himalayas. The LRP5 unbreakable bone mutation was primarily tracked in a single family in New England. Tetrachromacy requires a highly specific X chromosome lineage that only affects a tiny fraction of women. Golden blood is scattered randomly in microscopic, entirely unrelated pockets across the globe. Genetic drift, geographic isolation, and ancient human migration patterns over hundreds of thousands of years mean that these traits simply do not cross paths. The statistical probability of one single human being naturally inheriting the Denisovan altitude breath, the DIS2 sleepless gene, the LRP5 titanium skeleton, tetrachromatic vision, and Rh null golden blood all at the exact same time is functionally zero. There are 8 billion people on Earth today. You would need trillions of identical Earths, running millions of years of brutal human evolution on an infinite loop to find this exact genetic combination naturally occurring in one person. It is mathematically impossible, but the long answer is way more interesting. There is one last layer I saved for the very end, because it's the absolute most mind-bending part of all of this. You don't need all of these extreme superhero mutations to be rare. Because you, exactly as you are sitting right now, are already an impossible statistical anomaly. Think about that for a second. Let it sink in. Around 70,000 years ago, human beings nearly went entirely extinct. Whether it was the massive Toba supervolcano eruption that choked the entire global sky with ash, brutal and unforgiving ice age conditions that froze the continents, or a devastating ancient disease, the global human population violently crashed. Some geneticists and anthropologists estimate that the entire breeding population of Homo sapiens on planet Earth dropped to as low as 3 to 10,000 individuals. Read that again. We were an endangered species. There were fewer human beings alive on Earth than there are gorillas alive today. Every single human being alive right now, every person you have ever met, every person in your city, every face you see on the internet, descends directly from that tiny, terrified, starving, freezing group of survivors huddled around a few dwindling fires. The millions of humans who didn't survive that bottleneck took millions of potential genetic variations with them into the dirt forever. You are the direct result of a genetic bottleneck so tight, so profoundly mathematically improbable. It is an absolute miracle you exist at all. You carry fragments of dead Neanderthals inside your immune system, quietly dictating how you fight off the flu every winter. You carry fragments of lost Denisovans in your blood, dictating how your cells process oxygen when you climb a set of stairs. You carry the exact, painstakingly forged microscopic adaptations that allowed your specific, nameless ancestors to survive the freezing dark, the starving winters, and the teeth of predators. You are a patchwork quilt of ghosts. The rarest human possible isn't a theoretical superhero with unbreakable bones and golden blood. The rarest human possible is the one that actually survived the brutal, unforgiving gauntlet of prehistory to be sitting here today. Next time you stand in front of the mirror, staring at your own face under the harsh bathroom light as you brush your teeth, look a little closer. That feeling of being ordinary, that totally standard reflection staring back at you, it is a mathematical impossibility built on millions of years of desperate survival. You're not malfunctioning. You're remembering.